O'Rourke already facing an already crowded field of candidates, many of them with more experience on the national stage. So how does our panel think he will stack up? Senior politics writer for U.S. News and World Report, David Catanese. Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce and editor-in-chief at Ricochet.com, John Gabriel. Welcome to all of you.
How you doing, Shannon?
Thank you.
Okay, so there's been a lot made about Beto that today, he talked kind of amorphously about what he wanted to do and who he is, and I just couldn't stay away. I had to run. And Slate.com has this headline: Beto 2020 has no reason to exist. He's missing one important thing, an actual reason to run. A man without a clear political ideology, a signature legislative achievement, a major policy, or a concrete agenda for his country. But Tammy, the people love him.
The people love him. Look, I mean, it's entertainment, I suppose. And when you're running against Ted Cruz, you're going to have a section of Texans who might be more interested in another individual. But we have to remember, I mean, there's also this picture on the cover of Vanity Fair is very similar to a photograph of Reagan, almost right down to the stance, what he's wearing. So there's an understanding of imagery here. But Americans have found out, as have Democrats, with Barack Obama, what can happen when you do elect someone with a rather thin resume, without a long history of standing up for certain kinds of principles, and being vague or a little wobbly on where you really stand. And that did not necessarily work out for Americans overall. And I think that they're now struck with a civil war in a sense, from a progressive end, that wing, versus a wing that wants to go back to like a Joe Biden dynamic. So I think all of these people running is great. We're going to see this fight played out publicly, and the Democrats who vote are going to need to decide who they're going to become. They can't let Vanity Fair decide for them. They can't let, I would hope, they don't want to let just a charisma, and I think that that's also a very subjective kind of argument. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch, and the more people that get into this fight, the better. And obviously, none of them will become president, but they're all, I think, fighting for a job right now.
Okay.
Any job.
Okay, so John, Tammy touched on this charisma argument today. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said he brought vitality to the House when she was asked what he got done during his years in Congress. We're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up. But it's clear that there are some Republicans who are very concerned about him because he is young and charismatic, and he polls pretty well in a very crowded field. David McIntosh of the Club for Growth, they've already got an ad out potentially against him, this 2-minute piece. He says, "We realized here's a real potential threat because if he is the nominee, then Texas is suddenly in play." John.
I don't see Texas being in play. He could not defeat Ted Cruz in that situation last time around, and that's really what he's most famous for in the state and around the country. Time and again, just because the media really, really loves a candidate, it doesn't always mean the voters will as well. And it seems like Beto is really trying hard to rerun the 2008 campaign of Obama, but times have moved on. That was over 10 years ago, and I think the field has changed, especially against a candidate like Donald Trump, who will punch back 10 times as hard, really, and it's going to be tough to be that positive and optimistic on the debate stage, that's for sure.
Well, National Review says this: brace yourselves for Beto mania. He was never in the military, but talked about veterans issues so much that some people think he was. He's not Latino, but his rise fuels hope for Latino Democrats. He's a modest everyman with a net worth of $9 million. He's a border school attending son of a judge who escaped serious consequence, not just for a DUI, but also burglary charges. David.
Look, we're going to be able to see very quickly if he is a media creation or if he is the next Barack Obama. There's going to be some metrics that are rolled out. Bernie Sanders was able to raise $6 million in 24 hours. Beto O'Rourke's going to come up on 24 hours tomorrow. Most likely we're going to see a number that comes out. I think it will be a very big number. He built a very big fundraising list nationally from that race against Ted Cruz. Then you're going to have polls that come out in a week or so. Does he get a bump into that top tier with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden? So we're going to see very, very quickly. But I think this argument that he doesn't have a record or he doesn't have votes, that does not matter to a lot of voters anymore. Our last two presidents we elected had no record. I mean, Donald Trump never served in public office. Barack Obama was a first-term senator. Yeah. So, I mean, voters, they're the activists that care about certain issues, and there's regular people who sometimes get in a room and they decide, I like this guy.
But
he
can
makes
I
me feel good.
Quickly,
can I add, I think that Trump, though, was elected because he had a history of delivering in business and within a certain framework.
But he was certainly not a traditional candidate, and we'll see how it works for Beto. As you said, those fundraising dollars in the polls, those will be important in the next few days. David, Tammy, John, thank you all. Good to have you.
Thank you.